argument is about how the dependence on fossil fuels is negatively affecting our way of life. For those who aren't familiar with fossil fuels, they are coal, petroleum, and gas. Continued use of fossil fuels will destroy our environment. Global warming caused by burning fossil fuels poses a serious threat to our environment. Ross Gluskin, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author of The Heat is On, the Climate Crisis to Cover Up This Prescription, he argues that the global climate is gradually warming. A cause of this heating, he asserts, is the millions of tons of gases such as carbon dioxide that humans pump into the atmosphere by burning fossil fuels. These gases trap heat, raise the average global temperature, and indirectly cause many negative effects, including floods, storms, and droughts. Gluskin argues that the corporations that produce fossil fuels are attempting to convince the public that there is no climate crisis, but their claims are not supported by the available evidence. Extraction and burning fossil fuels pollute our earth. We increase the carbon dioxide in the air when we use fossil fuels, and the result is melting our ice caps and the Arctic. If we continue to depend on oil, in a few decades, there will be no more Arctic. Many of our once beautiful rainforests are now destroyed and can never be restored. Annie Leonard states in her book that in Ecuador, Texaco, now Chevron, spent nearly 3 decades between 1964 and 1992 extracting oil from a chunk of the Amazon forest, 3 decades between 1964 and 1992 extracting oil from a chunk of the Amazon forest, 3 times the size of Manhattan, destroying much of the area's life. Another point that proves that dependence on the fossil fuel negatively affects our way of life is that it cripples our economy. We rely too much on fossil fuels. It is used for everything such as transporting our goods, operating our factories, and our plastics, driving our cars, and producing energy. According to COF COM House, the United States uses approximately 20.8 million barrels of oil per day. This oil, along with coal and natural gases, accounts for over 85% of the energy consumed in the nation. Oil supplies 97% of the fuel used for automobiles and supplies 40% of the country's energy consumption. Many everyday products, including glasses, crayons, dishwashing liquids, detergent, ammonia, and tires, are also made from petroleum. Since we rely on fossil fuels for everything, when we use up all of our natural resources, we're going to be lost. We are wiping all our non-renewable source of energy. Professor Kel Alka from Sweden University states that our world's oil reserves are up to 8% less than predicted. The time required for production of fossil fuels is millions of years to make, and so once we use them all, we're going to be really lost, and we're going to have to resort to something other than fossil fuels. Fossil fuels is getting too expensive. People struggle to afford gas on speculation that our supplies are almost gone. In 2000, the gas prices were around $1.50, and now in 2011, gas prices are averaging out to be almost $4. At this rate, in another 10 years, gas prices will be up to $8 per gallon. The United States of America is in deep debt due to trade with other countries for oil. We are down in $250 billion in debt worth of oil imports. In conclusion, our dependence on fossil fuels is negatively affecting our life.
And then expand off of it.
I don't have to check. Yeah. All right, Kelly, at the beginning of the speech, I thought you rushed the claim. Ultimately, it's clear. I think it's mostly clear because at the end you repeat what the proposition was, because at the beginning of the speech it sounded like your arguments were going to be about global warming, and then it sounds like there's a shift to the fossil fuels dependence creating problems for us. And in essence, you're really covering both of those issues with a more general claim. And part of the problem, I think, at the beginning is that you were just in a hurry to get started. Once you settled down, I thought the signposting was okay. I think you could be a little bit sharper. It was better on the second point than it was on the first point. I thought it was strange that on the first point, the source that you give us is a journalist who's summarizing a bunch of arguments about global warming rather than a scientist who has got some data or research that they are citing specifically. And in fact, it sounds like the journalist has actually got a political agenda because of the attacks on the oil companies and their attempts to argue against the nature of global warming. So I think that there's probably better evidence for you to use on that first point. On the second point, it's still a little counterintuitive because you're talking about how it's going to harm us economically. Of course, the first question is what the alternative is that going to be any better? Not having oil or trying to move to something else or having limited access to it. I think that that's one of the problems here, that you've got an inherent contradiction between the position that you have on that second point. If we don't have enough oil, it's bad for the economy and everybody's prices are going to go up. If we use the oil, then it's bad for the world. So we're screwed either way, it sounds like you're saying. And I'm not sure that that's really a very good position to be advocating for the audience. I thought that you did a nice job citing all of your sources. You were very consistent about that. Sometimes the conclusions, I think, need a little bit more data to support them. It's not always as fluent, as smooth as it could be in the delivery, and you had a little bit of extra time, so you could have paced yourself more effectively at the beginning and probably added a little bit more data, too. Thank you.